We are in beginning of 21st century. When we look back 20th century, I think a lot of suffering, mainly through violence, through war. According to some historian, in 20th century, about 200 millions of people killed through violence. I myself, usually I make a distinction, the generation of 20th century, generation of 21st century. I belong to the 20th century. These people, you belong to 20th century. So I born 1935, Mulbekh, 35. At that period, Sino-Japanese War about to start. In Europe, Nazi Germany getting power. So these are the, I think, the beginning of Second World War. Then after that, Korean War, Vietnam War, and also civil war in Russia and China. So immense violence. Almost whole my life as a generation of 20th century, so I observed too much violence. And now, beginning of 21st century, so some sort of traces of 20th century's old thinking. Whenever we find some disagreement or problem, we often use weapon, often use force. I think on this planet, I think a lot of money spent for weapon. At the same time, in the early part of 20th century and the later part of 20th century, I think people's sort of attitude is much changed. In the early part of 20th century, as I mentioned earlier, so whenever some people really, I think, feel proud if you have more powerful army, and also, you see, people feel very proud when they develop nuclear bomb. But then, after Second World War, I think people gradually realize peace is very important. So firstly, European Union developed. I always admire the spirit of European Union. I think through decades and also maybe through centuries, like France and Germany, you see, a lot of violence, killing. But then, the de Gaulle of France and Adenauer of Germany, you see, I think mainly these people start European Union. Since European Union start or develop, I think among these member states now no longer killing each other, remain as a one sort of union. That's, I think, one clear indication. Big change, early part of 20th century and the later part of 20th century. And also, I think during Second World War and immediately after Second World War, I think people really feel proud nuclear weapon. Then gradually, the anti-nuclear bombs movement, increasing, led by Japanese. I have been Nagasaki and Hiroshima. These two places, they actually experienced nuclear bomb. So, I think within 1 century, I think early part of the century and the later part of the century, I think the human beings thinking much change. Then recently, about the Iraq crisis about to start, how many people participate in demonstration from Australia up to the United States? I think millions of people express against violence or war. So these are, I think, the clear sign of people's desire for peace. Because the people realize war, violence is the just only destruction and suffering. So human being becoming more mature. So that's really hopeful sign, hopeful development within my own lifetime. Now these things change. Now, 21st century, I think basically everywhere people now desire for peace and against violence and also against the nuclear weapon. These are now increasing. In that respect, the late President Havel, I think, much sort of participated. Then Czech Republic, when they got the independence, he sent an invitation to me. Soon, they become independence from Russian dominance. So I have the opportunity to visit there. And late President Havel, I really admire that person, something really remarkable. His death, I think, great loss. Firstly, Europe, then overall, I think, humanity. We need such person. But now, no longer. In any way, I think there are many people. And then in this country, Mahatma Gandhi, he thoroughly educated in England, in the West. But he remained typically Indian. His dress looks like ordinary Indian, including Indian backer. So he carried the freedom struggle mainly through non-violence Firstly, he started in his movement in South Africa, and then in India. I think really wonderful. So then, this country, India, I think the concept of ahimsa is Indian tradition. So in modern time, Mahatma Gandhi ji implement ahimsa in modern political struggle. Great. And anyway, when Iraq crisis about to happen, and some people asked me I should go to Baghdad and do something. And I felt I have no connection. So difficult. So then I wrote letter to President Havel. In the name of peace, Nobel laureate, and under the leadership of him, I think we should send some people to Iraq. Later also, I think I told him, and at that time, the former president of Africa, Ladakh, no, Declare or something, or South African, the former president. So now he also there. So you see, we increase in principle. You see, some kind of respected, well-known individual such as President Havel, and set up some kind of a group or a small group, sort of, say, just individual, not representing any government. And then go to Iraq, tell Saddam Hussein, if crisis start or happen, the Saddam Hussein, certainly our people of Iraq suffering. So I feel at that time, there's some respected, well-known people with warm-heartedness, sincere sort of feeling. Go there, maybe we can avoid Iraq crisis. But then Iraq crisis, you see, not only that crisis, but I think whole Arab world, their attitude towards Western, particularly towards America, something different. So at that time, because of the September 11th, the tragic situation happened in New York and to some extent in Washington. Since I know President Bush well, very well, I know each other, very close sort of feeling. So I wrote a letter while I expressed my condolence and my prayer. I wish this problem, should deal through non-violent way. But then President Bush, of course, he himself, I think, very nice. But some of his advisors, I think, including Vice President, Cheney, Dick Cheney, and some other, maybe, I think, overconfidence about U.S. forces or military strength. So then they start to use that. So at that time, so I express, at that time, today, one Bin Laden, one. If our handling that problem, the violent way, then after some time, 10 Bin Ladens, then 100 Bin Ladens possible. So it should be more non-violent way, carried with spirit of dialogue, like that. So in any way, we notice now, once you use violence, the counter-violence, endless violence, that's a reality. So among human beings, problem always remain. Till we human beings remain, I think some kind of problem always happen. Because of this marvelous human brain, always think something different, different visions. So the source of problem remain. Now what to do whenever some problem, disagreement happen? Then through talks, through dialogue, try to minimize that problem. That's the only way. So I usually call this 21st century should be century of dialogue. So now, this is one old person who belongs 20th century. You see, through my own sort of witness or experience, I have full conviction now this century must be peaceful century. In order to develop peaceful world, firstly on the basis of peaceful family, peaceful community, peaceful individual. So 7 billion human beings, one community, there's a combination of individual human beings. So first, peace must start on the level of individual human being. Then peaceful family, peaceful community, peaceful nation, eventually peaceful humanity. So real sort of, I think, the source of peace, inner peace, is compassion, love. Now here, I want to share with you, according to scientists, some scientists, now they say basic human nature is more compassionate. Quite a simple reason. 7 billion human beings, we all come from our mother. We all survived and raised through mother's immense affection. Without that, we can't survive. I usually describe my teacher of compassion is my mother. So I also usually mentioning my mother, so kind. We never saw our mother's sort of angry face, very, very compassionate. But my father, not like that. So therefore, now the important is human being. We are social animal. So we need emotional level. This is something to bring together, and that's human love, human compassion, bring together. Anger, push. So the anger is actually, I think, very much against the basic nature of social animal. Then physical level, constant anger. Constant anger and hatred actually eating our immune system. That's now medical scientists, they say that. So other hand, more peaceful mind, compassionate mind, really helpful to keep your good health. So therefore, not talking about next life, or not talking heaven, or Buddhist term, the nirvana. simply day-to-day life in order to be more peaceful, more joyful. Warm-heartedness here is very important. So he already mentioned the irrespective whether believer or non-believer. I think ultimate source of happiness of human being is warm-heartedness. So, according to Indian tradition, the secular way, according Indian understanding, in the European understanding about secular means a little bit disrespect. In the French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution, there is some kind of negative attitude towards religion. That actually not a religion. Religion means love, forgiveness, self-discipline. These are religion. So even dogs appreciate that. But during those revolution period, some kind of negative attitude towards religion is actually religious institution. We should make a distinction. Religious teaching and religious institution. Institution, many cases, rotten. Institution, religious institution becoming instrument for exploitation of innocent people or believer. Use threat. If you respect me, you go to heaven. If you not respect or criticize me, you go to hell. So the religious institution quite often is become part of feudal system. So in Tibet case, even Dalai Lama institution, I think first Dalai Lama, second Dalai Lama, the pure religious institution. Since fifth Dalai Lama, the institution becoming head of both temporal and spirituality, temporal also. So I feel that is outdated. So therefore, 2001, I retired all political responsibility. We already achieved elected political leadership. Then, since 2011, I totally sort of retired. You see, I never sort of involved the temporal matter. All temporal matter let they handled by the elected political leadership. Now, not only myself retired, but also 4th century old tradition, Dalai Lama institution, automatically become head of both, that officially, happily, voluntarily ended. So therefore, now I always describe, I'm simple Buddhist monk. So these are the reason the old sort of system, religious institution, also related with feudal system. So feudal system, outdated. Now today's world, we everywhere, we enjoy democracy. So ultimately, the owner of the country is not king or queen or religious leader, but people. So whole world belongs to 7 billion human beings. And each country actually belongs to the people of that country. So the best way to rule the country by people is through election, elected. So that's very good. That's very good. So we have to make distinction. Some sort of French Revolution case or the Bolshevik Revolution, and to some extent in Chinese Revolution also. You see, there is some tendency to against religious thing. That's a religious institution. So that is my sort of observation. So now, you see, I'm generation of 20th century, now ready to say bye-bye. Now the generation of 21st century, now you see, must think, not sort of narrow-minded way, short-sighted way. No, think whole world, and far-sighted way, far-sightedness like that. That's very important. I always was talking. My number one commitment is try to this century, try to become peaceful century. Peace through inner peace, not by weapon. So in education now should include how to develop inner peace. These days I describing the hygiene of emotion. Hygiene of physical, they are children learning how to take care of one's own body like that. Now we should include hygiene of emotion. That's very important. I can frankly speaking, through hygiene of physical, very sort of healthy body, very powerful body. But in the mental level, emotional level, too much anger, too much fear, then strong physical, more dangerous. So it is better, too much emotion, too much anger, weak physical is less danger. So now we must combine the hygiene of physical. Yes, take care your physical. Similarly, we have to take care about healthy emotion, healthy mind. Many problems which we are facing, besides nature disaster, that's beyond our control. But many problems is our own creation. Very clear. So therefore, now in order to develop peaceful world, we have to think our inner world, our emotion. Peaceful emotion, then peaceful world can develop. Here, within here, full of distrust, anger, ambition, impossible to achieve peaceful world. So therefore, compassion is the key factor. As I mentioned, according to Indian understanding, secular means respect all religion and also respect non-believer. So that means whole human being, 7 billion, same. So we must respect. I think Indian understanding, respect a non-believer, that's very important. Out of 7 billion, 1 billion non-believer. So these also human brothers, sisters, we must bring together. And then all religion, all carry same message, message of love, message of tolerance, forgiveness. So look here in India, over 3,000 years, different religious tradition already developed within the country. Then, eventually, I think over 2,000, the religion from Judeo-Christian tradition, then Islam come. All these, you see, beside homegrown different tradition, all major world religious tradition, mainly from Middle East, all come here. At a very ancient time, Zoroastrian from Parsi. settle here. No problem. I think over 3,000 years, religious harmony exists here, this country. Wonderful. Now today, I think all major world religious tradition live together here in this country, Bharat. You see, religious harmony is part of Indian tradition. In modern India, also now, carry religious tolerance, religious harmony. So here, one example, in Ladakh area, one example, Buddhist community, Islam community live together. Occasionally, some complain each other. That's quite, even one family member sometimes complain each other. But overall, I think India is the only nation who is the example. All major world religious traditions live together. Look, in Middle East, I think Syria, our next neighbor, Afghanistan, due to different tradition. And mainly, you see Shia, Sunni killing each other. In Burma, Buddhist, Muslim killing. Really, very sad. So now time come. 1,000-year-old India's tradition of religious harmony now must show rest of the world different religious faith can live together, share each other. In philosophical field, there is differences. That is necessary. Among humanity, you see different mental disposition. Therefore, different way of approach is necessary. But all these different philosophy or different tradition, same goal, to produce compassionate human being, compassionate, or say, humanity. Very good. So therefore, the all major world tradition, in spite different way of approach, but ultimate goal is same. We already notice. I myself, you say, among my friend, some Jews, some Christian, some Muslim, so on. Oh, wonderful. So therefore, all religion have same potential to produce compassionate human being, sensible human being. So the India is the living sort of example. All major world tradition can live together. So now time come, I think India, over 3,000 years, preserve religious tolerance. Now time come to show outside world religious harmony possible. In this country, over 3,000 years, that practice in modern India, also you see practice that. So therefore, India, not a small country, over 1 billion population, and East India, South India, West India, North India, Central India, different language, different script, but live together, no problem. So therefore, now the generation of 21st century, firstly think, try to develop compassionate human being, compassionate humanity, on the basis of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's important. The second, religious harmony. And then third, environment issue. Now global warming. I think a few centuries ago, maybe these mountains full of snow. Then, decade by decade, due to global warming, now no longer snow. And during maybe winter, few weeks, some snow maybe, but otherwise nowadays, barren hill. If there are some snow, if you live in snow, very uncomfortable. But from distance, snow, very beautiful. Isn't it? Now, these rocky mountain, nothing, feel something. So now this, I think after 20, 30 years, now at the moment, 2018, right? 2018. Now 2028, 2038. I think nature disaster may increase because of global warming. I myself witness in Lhasa area, previous generation, and even myself at a very young age, more snow. Then after around, say, my own age, say 15, 16, then much less snow. And the Dharamsala also. I think 1960 winter, lot of snow. We play in snow like that. Then each year, less snow. So now, shortage of water definitely increasing. So that also is very important. Now, like myself, when we were in Tibet, water and pure water we take for granted. After, say, reach India and also some European countries, then they make distinction. This water cannot drink because too much pollution. Therefore, environment issue also is very important. Should keep in your mind, take care. Okay? If we take care seriously, then one example, Sweden, Stockholm, the city in the middle, there is one river. I was told some Swedish friend, an early period, no longer fish in the river because too much pollution. Then the concerned people take sort of serious precaution. The factories along the river, they make certain sort of protection, protection way, environment protection. They take. So then later some fish reappear. So if we pay some attention, you see, it really makes effect. Like that. So therefore, now I think these hill, snow, full snow, or say the mountain, that's we can't do. But now little water here and there, we take care. You see, utilize very carefully. And I think some dam, I think may be relevant. Not huge one, small one. That may be one sort of, method. Even global warming, getting warmer, is some reservation of water in each village. That's important. I want to share with you. Then, if I may ask you, see, how many Buddhists here among the people? Raise hand. Okay. Then, as I mentioned earlier, religious harmony, very important. I'm Buddhist, and not only just Buddhist, I'm a student of Nalanda tradition. Among the Nalanda scholars, through centuries, a lot of debate with non-Buddhist philosopher. So I'm a student who studied these things. So sometimes I describe myself, I am not only just a Buddhist, but staunch Buddhist. I learn through these Nalanda masters sort of writing. There are a lot of critical sort of investigation about other tradition. However, all major religious tradition, as I mentioned earlier, is a very, I think all these different traditions are, I think, the source of inspiration for human being. When we're passing through difficult sort of period, difficult time, the religious faith still can hold our hope. So, religious tradition still, I think, very important role on modern history. Like that. Or modern time, like that. So, all these different religious traditions, wonderful. I respect. I practice also the pilgrimage to different holy places whenever opportunity there. That practice I start 1975 at Sarnath. Same day, first pilgrimage to small mosque, then Christian church, then one synagogue, then Jain temple, then Sikh temple, Gurdwara. The Gurdwara, I think last one. So when I reached Gurdwara, I already feel little hungry. So the prasad in Gurdwara, oh, very delicious. Like that. So therefore, I respect all major religious tradition. Over 1,000 years, these different traditions, they develop or remain in this planet. Now in the future also, I think a few centuries, these different religious traditions remain there. So we must respect. Okay. Now I'm, as a staunch Buddhist, differences, Buddha Dharma, and particularly Nalanda tradition, is Buddha himself, express, "Oh my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." So, I usually used to describe Buddha Shakyamuni. One aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, of course, to the Buddhist, the founder of Buddhism. One aspect of this person is great thinker, philosopher. In his teaching, already mentioned quantum physics. One Indian nuclear physicist Raja Ramana, late Raja Ramana, he once told me, quantum physics in the West, something new. But in this country, 2,600 years ago, already developed quantum physics concept. So, the Buddha taught that. So, judging from that sort of aspect, Buddha also great thinker, philosopher. And then he emphasized reasoning, experiment rather than faith. So judging from that, Buddha also, I consider scientist. Ancient one, Indian scientist. So therefore, now Nalanda tradition. Of course, in Buddhism, Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition. The Nalanda tradition is mainly Sanskrit tradition. Buddha's was the first teaching at Sarnath, mainly Pali tradition. The second Dharma teaching at is Rajagriha, Sanskrit tradition now. So in Sanskrit tradition, and then later, like a Nagarjuna, Gomulutu, Shingruba, Pekapolutu, Nagarjuna, and Arya Sangha, and Bhuttapalita, and Chantakirti, Diknag, Dharmakirti, all these people, not only is a Buddhist Sarvasati, because of the master, Buddhist monk, but also these are great philosophers. They are writing, we still study. So therefore, these peoples, in Tibetan translation, all come from India. I think from Chinese the translation from Chinese text, maybe I think around 10 or 20. Otherwise, rest of 300 volumes, Kanjuru, Tenjuru, you know, Kanjuru and the Tenjuru, or about 300 volumes, all translated from India. Most of them Sanskrit, translated from Sanskrit. So Tibetan language itself, they say, develop while translation carry. Before that, Tibetan language, very simple language. While translation carried, then Tibetan language itself now become much sort of, because of the rich. So now today, according to my own experience, it becomes very clear the best language to explain this sophisticated philosophy and psychology, Tibetan language is the best language. Sanskrit language, that language. Modern Hindi, no hope. And the Punjabi also, I think, not much hope. Because now these, in modern India, I think during British rule, I think the Indian pay much attention about modern education and modernity in these things. It's good. But I think much neglect about 1,000-year-old India's own tradition. So therefore, now today, according to my own experience, the best language to explain about this Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist science, Tibetan language is the best language. So Buddha Dharma, since particularly Sanskrit tradition, very much sort of emphasis, reasoning. So some of Nalanda master, they rejected some Buddha's own teaching. They say, if you accept this Buddhist teaching, literally, it goes against reason. And we find contradiction. Therefore, we must reject that. Like Nagarjuna and Chandrakriti. So that clearly shows the emphasis, investigation, analyze things, not just a faith. So therefore, some Chinese Chinese some scholar now who now pay some attention about Buddhism, they say, and mainly Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they consider pure sort of a tradition of Nalanda sort of Kasuda tradition. So then some of these Chinese professors, they describe Nalanda tradition, Buddhism, is a very scientific religion, they say. It is true. According to my own experience, now last over 30 years, nearly now 40 years, I have serious discussion with modern scientists, mainly cosmology, neurobiology, physics, particularly quantum physics. Quantum physics is concerned, we know better than modern sort of scientists. Because as I mentioned, the Rajaramana mentioned, quantum physics, I think the Buddhist sort of philosophical different views, they what say, Samsamba, mind-only school of thought, Samsamba, mentioned that quantum physics very clearly. And then Madhyamika philosophy, Umaba. Oh, wonderful. Then psychology. Psychology is concerned, if may I say so, the modern psychology compare ancient Indian psychology, then modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. Ancient Indian psychology highly developed, really. So now more and more scientists are now really showing interest, to learn from ancient Indian psychology, like that. So therefore, and then if we find some concept, century-old concept, which goes against the scientific finding, then we can reject that. For example, the Buddhist, the concept of world is flat world, and then in the center, Mount Meru, and the sun and the moon go like that. So here, our place, daytime. The other side of Mount Meru is dark period, night. So, I think through centuries we believe that way. Now the scientist, it's a world not flat, round. And the sun and moon go like that. Our sun, of course, our world, 24 hours go like that, and with that moon also goes around our world, sun very far. So some of the Buddhist texts, the Mount Meru, I no longer accept. I publicly mentioned I do not believe Mount Meru. And then the Abhidhammakosha Karika, wrote by Vasubandhu, sun and moon more or less same size. Very terrible, according to our scientific finding. Huge differences. Sun, huge, very big. Moon, much smaller. But it appears to us, not big differences because distance. Moon quite close. Sun, very far. These are actually, they are finding. So we must accept the scientific finding, not some old Buddhist text mention. No problem. Then Buddhist concept, Tongpa Patit Tenjung, Patit Samupanda. Many scientists very much sort of showing interest about interdependency. Everything, no absolute, everything interdependent, interconnectedness. So that's very scientific. Now, Buddhist main concept is Tongpa Nyi, Tenjung, Tene Tuba, Tene Takpa. You see, like that. So therefore, as the Chinese scholar mentioned, I think Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist view, and science can go side by side. And according to my own experience, we learn the close connection, close discussion is actually mutual benefit, like that. I never say Buddhism is best. I never state. Like medicine, we cannot say one medicine, this is best medicine. How can? Different patient need different medicine. One medicine, therefore we cannot say one medicine, this is best medicine. Similarly, among the humanity, different mental disposition. Therefore, to some people, this religion is more effective. Some people, other religion is more effective. For example, to some people, theistic religion, oh, there is God, there is Creator, there is Allah. That more effective. To some people, as Buddhist and Jainism say, no Creator, but rather self-creation, like that. That more suitable to some people. So like that. So therefore, we cannot. Oh. Oh, I see. So therefore, I never state Buddhism is best. For me, Buddhism is best. But to humanity, we cannot say Buddhism is best. I never try to propagate Buddhism. If the Buddha himself is in Vinaya Sutra, he mentioned, unless someone asks you the teaching of Kusala, request is it teaching, then tell. Without request, should not tell. That's very good. Thank you.